Hello everyone, welcome to today's interview. Really great that you can join us today. I'm in Melbourne, Australia. Please tell us in the comments where you are today. We'd love to know. Today it is my absolute pleasure to welcome professional organiser extraordinaire, Jenny Vile, coming to us from New South Wales. And Jenny is the founder of the company Love the Way You Live. Welcome, Jenny. Fantastic to see you.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here today.
I'm excited to see you too. And you're going to be talking about a topic that's very near and dear to your heart, which is decluttering. And I think all of us here today can relate to the problem of clutter in one way, shape or form. And we look very much forward to hearing you share your wisdom with us on this topic.
Thank you.
So my pleasure. So without further ado, I thought it'd be interesting for the audience to hear a bit about you, your background, and how you got into the world of professional organising and decluttering. Over to you.
Well, yes, thank you. Well, I think it probably started 19 years ago that I've been in business. So I was running a administration business, secretarial support, and I'd also been in real estate as well. So I had an agency doing buyer's agency and then selling. So I was helping, buyers to find property, and then I sort of went over to selling as well. So then I basically, had the administration business for 17 years and had the real estate business for about 6 years. And then I decided to explore this world of professional organising, which I really didn't know there was such a thing. So I had to do a bit of research. And in the meantime, I also did a feng shui energy and colour consulting practitioner's course. So I sort of tend to blend that a little bit with my clients where needed, if they needed. And then basically, started Love the Way You Live about 6 years ago. So it sort of ventured from, I think, my passions, anything to do with the home life, I think was my passion. So that's where I sort of started Love the Way You Live. So that's how it started. So it was mainly decluttering and organising clients. Then I was doing some Airbnb styling. Then I was doing some Airbnb cleaning. Then it went to partial styling. But I just found over those years that the decluttering side was definitely my passion, helping people, get organised, get rid of their clutter. And I suppose it's more that procrastination that they had and how to get started. That was the biggest thing. People would say, I just don't know where to start. And then to stop that procrastination and just start small. So that's sort of how it all came together, and it just took off.
Yeah, well, I think you've hit a nerve because clutter's a big problem. I mean, we'll talk about that in a second, but it's just very draining. And I love that feng shui thing where you because it's all about energy, isn't it? It's like a blockage of energy when there's clutter and junk and stuff on every surface, in every cupboard, in every drawer, and wherever you look, you just feel like all the energy and the life force is sapped out of you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's that whole home environment is really important for how we feel.
Yes, and
Um,
it's a home, and also even if it goes into the workspace, some people's offices are also.
yes,
You're more with the homes, though, aren't you? And that brings us to your main types of clients. They're
yes.
more home-based people.
Yeah, so I work with sort of high-end clients as well. So I work from people who are minimalist to hoarding conditions, and yeah, it's mainly time poor clients. I do work with professionals as well, but homeowners that generally just need help, mums with young ones or teenagers can always be challenging. So yeah, it's a mix of clients that I've had over the years. Which I enjoy all of them really.
Yeah, they're all different in their own way. What do you
Yeah.
love? What do you love most about your work in this field? What gives you the most satisfaction and joy?
I think it's at the end, at the end of the sessions when I've worked with them, because at the start they can't visualize what it's going to feel like. And then when we're
Yes.
sort of midpoint through the session, they're thinking, oh, I just can't see how we're going to get anywhere, because it's just, we've got a lot of stuff out. We've pulled things out of cupboards.
And things
It's
look
pretty
worse before they
chaotic.
look. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like you
so,
create. They think I've just brought you into my house and
yeah,
you've just created a bomb site and you're going to help me. Yeah, so that
yeah,
you need a bit. There's a
that's
great
right.
saying. I once said, "You don't show a fool a half
Yeah,
finished job." So
that's right.
in other
Yeah,
words, they can't imagine it. But then I guess
yeah.
when they have faith in you, they put their faith in
Yes,
you and their
yes,
trust, and
yes.
they go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I just say, just hold on, stay with me. We're going to get through this. And then, yeah, we just push through. And obviously I work to the limits of people, like after a 3-hour session, sometimes people just start to get a bit of a blockage and they can't really think much after that.
Yeah.
So 3-hour sessions are generally what most people do, 3 to 4 hours. But yes, it's just getting to that end and then seeing the results. And it's just a huge release for them, and just to see their smile on their face and the
Oh
relief
yeah.
off their shoulders. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really,
and what about? I always wonder because sometimes you feel great, you do a drawer or a surface, but the maintenance part of it is also very important, isn't it?
yes, yeah. So that's where the decluttering coaching comes in,
Yeah.
because we don't want them to be disabled. We want to enable them to be able to continue that process when we're gone, because sometimes clients will say, well, I haven't really done anything since you last came. So I really need them to teach them how to actually maintain that ongoing, so that they're
Yes.
able to do it without me there. I do have regular clients that I do go in and see whenever they need me to come in. They'll just give me a call and say, I need some help. But generally, it's trying to get them, and you're teaching them along the way some of the tools and tricks of how to maintain it.
Yeah, it's empowering. You're right. It's empowering
It is
them so that they
empowering
can
them.
take ownership of their space rather than calling you in every time
Yes,
there's a mess that they need to clear.
exactly.
And I wanted to ask you, why have we got so much clutter? I mean, it's a problem that's always been around. Do you think it's worse now? Or what's your take on why
Um,
there is so much stuff that we've got and it's out of
yeah.
control?
I think because we have access to online shopping is a big deal. So we're able to just accumulate lots of things, where before we used to have to go out to the shops, which we still do, but having that online service now just allows us to just purchase all the time, 24/7. And we just feel, I don't know, we just feel like we need to have all this stuff around us, like we're not used to having that minimalistic look within our homes. But that's a personal thing too. Some people like to have lots of things around them. It makes them feel worthy, and it makes them feel cozy. But some people like that minimalist look. But it is a huge problem, and part of my business is to try and reduce landfill. So I'm really into the upcycling, recycling as well, so that we can at least do our part a little bit to try and
Yes.
help, with the landfill, because that is a huge issue. Because
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
yeah,
and
how
they
long?
said the rate we're buying things, we're going to need 3 planet Earths to keep our
Yes,
habit, our
yeah,
voracious habit, for a need for more and more
mm,
stuff. And I think
that's
also you were
right.
saying do you think there's an emotional component when we buy and buy and buy? It makes us feel better. That's another
Yes.
reason we've got so much stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and
Yeah.
especially with COVID, that's been, I think,
Yes.
a big problem with, accumulating more things that we really, really need.
Yes.
And we tend to go out and buy more, plastic containers and things. So, that plastic is also, bad for the environment as well. So we tend to just buy for what we've got there instead of decluttering first and then, seeing what we've got first and then, then say, okay, well, I might need 5 containers to for the kitchen, for the pantry or something like that. Whereas, if we're just looking at it before we've decluttered, we just think, oh, we might need 15 of those. So
you pare it down first, and then
Yeah.
you know what you need to buy in terms of storage containers.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Which rooms and spaces are the biggest culprits? Like I think of the kitchen table or certain surfaces. They seem to be like a magnet for clutter. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, interestingly, I did a poll on my private Facebook group, and basically I did a bit of a poll saying what are your top 3 pain points in your home. So obviously the bedrooms were one, the garage, and the kitchen was the other one. So they were the 3 that people sort of felt were the most painful section to be dealing with. The other one can sometimes be the home office as well, and paperwork. That's a big deal. Paperwork is it takes a long time to get that sorted. It's not something that you can go into a room and create something very quickly and it looks great, whereas paperwork's very time. It's very time.
I know, and you tend to move it to another room so you don't see it, but it's always there, lurking in the background. Right. You just can't clear, and it's like it breeds in front of you unless you deal with it in a timely fashion and get a handle on it at the time. It's just and it just looks back at you. And anyway, I think that leads us. That's a great segue into what the cure is for our clutter problem. And if you think about habits, I mean, habits are so important in anything in life, in productivity and wellness, getting into good habits. So what habits would you recommend people adopt? Little habits to get on top of their clutter problem.
So I think the main ones, like the tips for doing it is, firstly, is make your bed. I know it sounds very strange, but making a bed in the morning is the first step to getting up and feeling empowered. So that's probably my thing. And, really think about what you're going out to buy, thinking, do I really need to go out and get what it is today? I mean, do we really need it? And I think, it's getting rid of the clutter gives you a better brain space as well. So, you feel a lot lighter. I find that my clients say that, and it's that satisfaction of empowering yourself not to go out and spend money as well. Start small. I always say that that's the biggest thing. So completion to me is the key. So you just need to complete a task. So sometimes, a lot of my clients will say, oh, I've started that and I've started that and I just can't get them finished. So you try and stay with a task and finish that first. So whether it's just, folding up your things in the dryer or something like that, your towels, don't leave them around. Go and fold them up, put them away. So that's a completion task. And like in the nighttime, if you washing up, try and wash up and put your things away. You can either drip dry and just leave them, but at least you've cleared the kitchen bench and it's tidy. So when you get up in the morning, it's that environment that you think, oh, that's great. Yeah, I don't have to wake up to dishes everywhere and mess. It just doesn't start the day off very well.
Yeah, it's like when you have a dinner party or you have people over, I always make sure at the end I've cleared all the dishes are away. I don't want to wake up the next day and see dishes everywhere. Or
no,
there's something about, you're right, finishing a task off to its logical end. Yes. It just gives you a feeling of accomplishment. And like you said, everything's clear and decluttered and it gives you that feeling of clarity.
Yes, that's right. And some of my other tasks, I suppose, would be, definitely putting items away after use. So I know that can be hard for some people. I grew up in a family that was very organised and everything had a place. So if you got the salt and pepper out, you would put the salt and pepper back in the cupboard. So it was just simple things like that, so you don't build up that clutter, especially in your kitchen area, anywhere there's a flat surface. And then, and then donating items. So sometimes I'll suggest to clients, if I'm working with them for a while, is, get a box or a tub or something like that. You could either keep it in the car or you could keep it in the garage, and you could actually, when you're going through and you're decluttering, you could just throw some things in there and just start to, put them in there, and then when you're going out, you could just take them with you. So instead of thinking, oh, I'll do that one day, I'll go and take those donations, you actually, like, when actually you see it there, you do want to actually go and get rid of it. So, you can either put the box in the car so that when you're going out, when you go past a donation store, you could drop it off, or if you had family and friends that you wanted to give it to, that's another option as well. So you're upcycling to someone else. And then the other suggestion would be to put a notepad next to your bed. So that helps for sleeping at night, because we tend to have our minds racing all the time. So when you have a lot on your mind, have a little pad next to your bed and write down some things that you've got to, maybe do tomorrow or next week or something like that. So it's not filling up your memory bank, and you don't have to be thinking about it, and you will sleep a little bit better.
Yes, that's so true. I find if I write a list, like a little to-do list for the next day, just a few things, not 100 things, like let's say the top 3 things I want to do tomorrow. If it's out of my head, I'm not going to wake up at 2 a.m, in a cold sweat thinking about it. But it's just it's cleared out, like you said, it's out of the RAM of our brains, and then we're free to sleep and sleep soundly and not worry. It's like, you're right. It's just writing things down in a little book is quite magical.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
Yeah. And what you've been saying, they're all simple things, logical things, common sense things, but we tend to sometimes forget that the simple things are what creates a simple life, just a decluttered life. I also find, and I don't always stick to this, if I buy one thing, something else has got to go out. Like if I buy a book, which I'm a bit of a lover of books, I buy one book's got to go out, because otherwise I've got limits to my book space. I can't have thousands of books in there.
That's right. Yes. Yeah, so I do that with clothes as well. So for clients, if they bring an item in, they've got to get rid of 2.
Yeah, or 2. That's even more radical too. Yeah, but that's really good, because we've got limits to how much space.
That's right.
Have. And also, how many clothes do we even really need?
That's right.
We have so many. I mean, isn't it the Pareto principle? 80% of the time we wear 20% of our clothes, and that rule comes into daily life in so many things. So that's all those habits that are, and you've shared some brilliant ones there. What about if we've got a little area like a drawer? I think of a junk drawer, or any drawer, or a surface, a flat surface. What are the steps in decluttering? There's lots of different stuff. What are the steps you would take a client through and that always works?
So just keep it simple. So if you're working in a drawer, probably the main ones that people like to work in is where you've got all your cooking utensils and things. So ideally you just take them all out, put them on the kitchen bench, and then you sort them into categories. And then once you sort into the categories, you're then looking to see, is anything broken? Is it chipped? Is it not safe to be using anymore because it's rusty or something like that? You would discard those, and then you work out then, once you've done that, how many items you've got left. And then the next question would be, do I really need 5 whiskers or something? Do I need 5 egg clippers? Or so you'd sort of try and break it down, and anything, if you feel like you don't need 5 of those and you only need 1 or 2.
But you generally only need 1 or 2 whiskers. Yes.
You could then donate them. So if they're still in good condition, though, if they're not, then you would discard them. So then when you put them into categories, that's ideal. And then places like Spotlight, Kmart, Bunnings even have them. You can get your the dividers, so you can actually set them up into areas. So that actually works too, because then it's sort of a bit more organised, because sometimes we tend to just throw it all in the drawer and they end up everywhere. So you can get the dividers, which work really well. So then you can start to place them back in, and you sort of slowly get into a habit of knowing, the egg flippers or the whisk or something that goes on the left. So it's just getting your brain into that sort of mode to be more organised and to keep it simple. So I mean that's probably as simple as it gets. But just trying to break down, how many people are living in the home, obviously. If it's only, if you haven't got children, or if you have got children, you may need a few extra things. But generally, we really don't need a lot. And we tend to use the same things all the time. So same saucepans. So that's where I find people just have too much of the same thing.
Do you think people get swept into buying these new fandangled gadgets? They see an ad on TV at 2 a.m. They can't sleep, but they go out and call up the number and buy the or they go into the department store and overload. I'll use this and I'll use that, and they end up probably gathers dust. Dust like the bread makers and the air fryers. I mean, some things are great, but you can just overdo it sometimes.
That's
right. Like you said, we end up using the same things over and over again.
Yes, yeah. I mean, things like like the bread makers and that, you don't always need those every week. So, you sort of work out what space you've got in your pantry or cupboards, and then you can sort of put those up higher in the shelving. So if they're not something you're using often, you would put those away, and then just keep out the things that you used most. And obviously it depends on how much space you've got. Some homes have a bigger pantry or more cupboard space, but you have to work with what you've got. So that's probably my main suggestion.
Yes, and like you said, having things in prime real estate that you're using all the time, and maybe if you are going to make bread every month, put it on a higher shelf and bring it down as required.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Because it just takes up space. Yeah.
Yes. No, that's really interesting. So for real estate, like they downsize or they move house, are there any specific tips you have for those types of people?
Well, I suppose most people have probably heard in real estate, presentation is a must, and it's the first thing. So buyers are very savvy these days, so they know what they're looking for. So there's, that one chance you get when you have your first open home, that they know what they're looking for. They've been looking, they know what prices properties are selling for. So I work a lot with downsizers, and actually they call it right sizing now. There's
right sizing. New term. I haven't heard of that one. Yeah.
It's been around for a while, but it's and so basically it gets people to I suppose just look at the home as it is now, and then sometimes it just needs someone to come in and have a look for them and just have a look around. So the furniture placement is something that I work with. So furniture placement's important. So where you have your furniture, so it actually looks visually bigger. We're getting rid of the clutter. We're getting rid of, things that are like on the walls. You've got people's pictures and photos. We try to put all those away and pack those away, because you want the buyers to visualise themselves living there. So it just takes away that feeling of ownership still, that it's yours. And surface, definitely the surface thing. So you sort of start to pack away things. You start to put a bit of a plan together, put a list together of items that you think you may not need, especially if you know where you're going. If you're going to, retirement living, or you're downsizing to a smaller place, then you know sort of what furniture you're going to be able to fit in. So you can actually, measure and look at your floor plans and say, well, okay, that lounge is not going to fit there, or that, cabinet's not going to work. So, and that sort of starts to put things in place. So you start to try and work with that a little bit, probably 6 months when you're sort of thinking about selling. You start to look at that process, because it does take a little time, and especially with the decluttering side, because you live in it, so you don't see what buyers see, and because they're quite savvy and they've been looking, actively. That's the sort of thing they're looking for, and they're trying to visualize themselves in there. So if there's too much clutter, they're not going to be able to visualize, how they could be living there.
Yes, that's why you take, like you said, you take all the photos out and you make everything just like a beautiful, clean, simple canvas so they can imagine all their stuff in there.
Yes,
and
yes.
It's all
That's
light
right.
and airy, and there's beauty in simplicity. That's
yes, definitely.
And that's saying less is more. I think it's so true. Less really is more. That's why I love a lot of these minimalist ways people live, and I think, gee, I wish I could live like that. It's just so bare bones, but it works for a lot of people. I guess everyone each to their own. Now with wardrobe tips, you've got a special offer you're offering your clients, and I'll just bring that up at the bottom here. Okay. And have I got the right link, Jenny? Tell me.
Yes, that's the one.
And tell us about your special offer.
Yeah, so that's just it's a freebie that I'm giving away. So it's how to declutter your clothes in 7 steps. So it's just a little PDF download that you can go to the website at the bottom there, and you go to the tips in my website, and then it'll have resources on the top, and then you just hit tips, and then the first one that comes up, you can just put your first name and email address, and then it will send it to your email address, and then you can just download the PDF from there. So it's just a 7-step process. I've got a few tips in there as well on if you're needing to selling clothing or other things, that's all there as well. So I'd love to, if you'd like to download that and get any feedback would be great. Before and after shots, if you put something together and you do that process, I'd love to see it. And I've got an offer at the moment for people that just want to have a chat. So I've got a one-on-one session offer at the moment for $47, where people can have me one-on-one for 30 minutes just to have a discussion if they just wanted to talk about anything to do with decluttering, organising, downsizing. I've just got that offer. So you can just get in touch with me via the website on the contact page. That's pretty much it. But yes, I'd love for you to download it because it's got some little goodies in there.
It sounds really good. So, I like what you said, for people to go through those steps that you've suggested and see before and after. And that'll be very gratifying for you to see how it's helped people.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, Jenny, what are some of the questions that people ask you in your day-to-day work?
Oh, probably the biggest ones are where to start is one of the biggest ones. I feel really overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. Sometimes the siblings will call me for their aged parents and say that, they just don't know what to do. There's too much emotion involved, so they need a little bit of help. Sometimes I just can't stop procrastinating. So I work with people with ADHD, so sometimes it's hard for them to stay focused on one thing, and then they start to procrastinate over that. I think they're the main things that they really struggle with is just where to start and how to start. That's
the where and the how, and just having someone like you there to guide them, hold their hand and guide them through it, because it can be especially if it's very neglected, like they've been putting it off for months or years. It's you come in, it's probably a huge job.
Absolutely.
And
it's huge.
And it's emotional, it's overwhelming, and
it is. I mean, some people haven't had people come to their home in 4 years. Like I've had clients like that where they've just not allowed anyone in to come in and sort of see what the condition they're in, but they've allowed me to come in and start to help them. So that's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
Yeah, it might take them months to call me, but I'm glad when they do, though.
Oh yeah, because you want someone you feel comfortable with, who doesn't, you don't
Yes.
feel judged, you can trust them,
No.
because it is a big deal for them, and then it's life changing, because then they've got a home that they can invite people over to, and they feel
Yes.
proud
Correct.
and happy, and they can enjoy their space so much more. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and the key is for them to maintain it, obviously, as we've
Yes.
discussed.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah.
Jenny, I've got one question I want to ask you that I like to ask all my guests. If you could go back in time to your 18-year-old self, what
Yes.
advice would you have for that young woman?
Oh, I think it'd be, don't be so hard on yourself. Everything doesn't have to be perfect. Just be empathetic, which obviously in my role, it's very much a big part of that. That empathy, and actually listening to people when they're talking to you. Really listen to what they're saying. Don't just sort of say, oh yeah, and then just start talking or trying to help them straight away. You need to sort of absorb what they're saying. So I have learned that over the years that
and the message, and sometimes people don't say things, but you read their body language and what they're, and try to get into their psyche, what they're feeling, because some people don't. Is that important too, the body language and reading that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that as well. Yeah, it's just listening and not jumping and thinking, oh well, I can help with that. You've got to let them talk first and hear what they're saying, but also, as you say, that body language as well, because people can't always express how they feel. So
yes,
it's
I like that about putting yourself in their shoes and trying to understand them, and not just talking, oh, I can solve this, but you're trying to understand their perspective before you just launch in with a solution, and finding a solution that they're happy with.
That's right.
Well.
Yeah, because everyone's different. So
yeah. And also I was thinking also, when you were talking about the sessions, it's also it can be quite fatiguing going for too long, because it's a lot of decisions you have to make when you're throwing things out, isn't it?
Yes,
do
absolutely.
you find that the people get quite drained with making a decision up?
Yeah, by about the third or fourth hour.
They don't know, they're like, their brains fry, they don't know where they are.
That's right. They sort of start to get a different sort of colour in their face, and they sort of, they get that stare where they're not, if you're asking, what did you want to do with this or something, you can see that they're just starting to glaze over, and it's not making any sense anymore. So you would just say, okay, that's it for today. We'll come back to that another day, because it's a lot, especially when they've got a lot of things.
After decision, what do I throw this out? Do I give this away? What do I do with this? And it's like hundreds of decisions in one session. So because, but I can see you'd be very lovely to work with, because you've got just such a nice way about you. You just, because that's part of working with a nice professional organizer. You feel that rapport, that comfort, and feeling at ease with the person. So
yes, absolutely, because they're welcoming you into their home, and that's a big deal, to have trust. Like, I feel honoured to be asked to come into someone's home, because it can be quite embarrassing for them. It's very challenging.
Yeah, they feel vulnerable and exposed.
Absolutely.
and you just reassure them.
Yeah, I mean, I do have the virtual sessions now, the one-on-one virtual sessions as well. So if people don't feel comfortable, or they just want to, have a chat to me or show me something that's in the house, we just Zoom, and we'll just do a consult that way too. So that works for some people, where they might not need 3 hours, they might just need an hour or so to just say, let's have a look in here, and then they sort of do the process, and I just give them some guidance. So that works well as well.
Oh, that's brilliant. So you can be personally in their home or over Zoom. You work according to different people's needs. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to let everyone know that on the 24th, I'll be speaking with Donna Hanson about another decluttering type of problem, but this time it's with email. And I think of my inbox, and I think I'm going to need some of Donna's tips. So that's coming up on the 24th, and hope you can make it for that. Jenny, I want to thank you today. It's been so interesting speaking with you, and I hope the audience has gained some wonderful new tips for their decluttering. And it'd be great if they need you to get in contact with you. And we've got that special offer also available that you've mentioned. So
Yes,
thank you again. It's been terrific.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Jenny. Yeah. So on that note, let's say goodbye for now, and please tune in on the 24th when Donna's going to join us on Email Overload. Thank you again, Jenny, and bye everyone. We'll see you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. Okay, bye.